Opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative of Konig American. At times, language may be considered vulgar. Listener discretion is suggested.
You are now listening to the Konig Behind the Wheel podcast.
What's going on? I'm Scott from Konig. With me is Jared from Konig, and we have a special guest with us, Taylor Hall, Formula D Pro driver. He's the Cadillac guy, the guy that you've seen with the Stetson. Am I doing this right? I want to make sure I'm getting my lingo correct because I'm going to piss a lot of people off. Stetson, yes?
Stetson is correct, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, nice.
Taylor, thanks for hanging out with us. We usually do these live, but some people have jobs. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, as good as it pays to be a professional Formula Drift driver, you would think that wouldn't have to. But yeah, I mean, crazy. I have a job just like you guys.
Yeah, it's a very interesting, complex situation here that you should actually have to work and be a professional driver.
Yeah, challenging is to say the least. But you know, when you love something and you want to make it happen, you do what has to be done. So work a normal 50-hour week and then go home and put in another 50. So it's what you got to do to make it happen. So that's what we do. So
is your company comfortable with you taking random time off to, come back from events or different things like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate to work for a great company in United Rentals. Also, fortunately, I've been here long enough to have built up some vacation time. So it works out well because I get a few weeks off each year that I can spend, pretty much doing this. I don't get to do the normal vacations that families do, but I put all my vacation time into that bucket, and that's kind of what we do as a family.
Yeah. So now what do you do for United Rentals?
So I manage a branch in South Atlanta.
Okay. So you're on the road, you use your time, but you know what I like about Taylor? Taylor's a family guy. Like if you were to follow him, if you're even somebody that doesn't know Taylor personally, but you follow him on, Facebook or Instagram, you see that when Taylor says about going on these trips, how they kind of make it into family trips. You guys really do. You on your way back, you kind of make adventures.
Yeah, we try and do as much of that as possible. We'll pick somewhere fun to go on each one of the FD stops. For the most part, they all go to really great locations, right? Between Seattle, there's always awesome stuff to do in Seattle. We're going to get to go to a new event this year in Englishtown and Erie, Pennsylvania. I've never been up to Erie before, so we'll get to see some neat stuff there. There's always some cool stuff to do in Atlanta. Obviously, I love going to Texas. Unfortunately, we won't be going back to Texas this year, which is kind of bittersweet. It's my favorite city we visit and my least favorite venue, I think, in Texas Motor Speedway. So I'm kind of excited to not be driving there.
Well, there's nothing really to do at Englishtown. I got news for you.
Oh,
But you're close to Manhattan.
That's true, yeah.
Right? Like everybody that comes up here, I'm sure the city becomes the attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we usually did when we came up to Wall also, so I'm sure it'll be similar.
I mean, and arguably,
Yeah.
I'd rather be at Englishtown than Wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wall was the second least favorite venue. So, yeah, I'm super excited to be going to Englishtown, though. I think that setup for the fans is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. It's interesting enough. It's bittersweet for me because my younger year, any of the racing that I did was always drag racing, just in the right time period for me, and that was a track that I have a lot of really good memories and a few really bad memories at. And now it's just kind of, not what it was. Have you seen pictures of what the venue looks like now?
I have, yeah. The drag strip is a memory now.
Yeah,
Crazy.
It is. A distant memory.
Pour one out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. I didn't really grow up as a drag racing guy. I grew up as a oval track guy. So
Okay.
I have seen my fair share of speedways that I grew up competing and watching races that fall by the wayside as well, so I know what that's like.
Yeah, I would imagine the oval racing is probably the ones out of all the racing that took the biggest hit of when we start talking about number of venues that were once there versus how many are left now.
Yeah, especially during kind of the depression of the 2000s, if you will. A lot of the owners, were kind of forced to fold up shop there during that time, and a lot of them didn't get reopened. A lot of them got bulldozed, and they're gonna, or have already fallen victim to the same fate that Wall seems like it's going to fall to, which is housing developments and all that kind of stuff, which I hate to see.
I think all racetracks, regardless of whether they're drag or oval or whatever it may be, they always seem to fall victim to real estate projects. And the reason is because they're always places that start out in the middle of nowhere. And then all of a sudden the areas get built up, and they're the ones left holding large plots of land that are undeveloped, most likely, I mean, it's not going to take anything for them just to push a bunch of dirt into the bowl of what Wall was. But, for people that remember Wall in a better place, last year was not last year. We all know what last year was, but the year before that was rough. I mean, they had to change middle of practice. They had to change directions that you guys were driving because the track was just puking itself over somebody that thought it was a good idea to put some quick patch out.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. That was a pretty gnarly hole that developed very early on in practice, and FD had the audible, and we did, and it worked out. But the track was definitely falling into a pretty bad state.
Yeah. I think Englishtown, obviously, it's freshly paved. It's a much different type of thing. But why was Texas not a course that you liked?
So, I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. It's fast, which is generally a criteria of a course I really do like, because my two favorite tracks are Seattle and Irwindale. I'm kind of big on the ovals, being a previous oval guy.
Yeah.
But Texas, I think it was that it's really, really hard to tandem there in almost any layout that you do, because it's got that huge long straightaway, and you basically just get caught in the smoke trail behind the guy because you're driving almost straight behind them just to be able to keep pace. And I don't know, especially the way they did it last year, the experience for the fan was definitely not what it should have been. Texas really kind of left us all holding the bag there while they were doing ride and drives around the big 1.5 miles, while they were trying to have fans watch from 3 football fields away.
Well,
Right.
Well, I also think, at least from my perspective, I've shot FD for roughly about 3 years or so, and I feel like from a media standpoint, it's kind of underwhelming. I mean, of course, shooting drifting is exciting, but I don't know, at that track, it's compared to Irwindale or Evergreen, I don't know. For me, it was more a little
I don't know. I mean, as a fan, I think I liked how quick Texas was, but you always had that area where, like there was a lot of catch up. There was always a good amount of distance, unless you had two really high powered, big powered cars that could kind of muscle themselves up. And there was always that one area where you'd have to play that catch up, where you'd watch the lead, the chase car have to really make up a lot of grounds to, and they're always sacrificing something,
lot of
proximity, whatever it was. I mean,
it just didn't promote great tandem.
Yeah, it just stunk. So you said that you started out in oval. How do you make the jump from, well, first off, how do you get into oval? But then how do you go from oval to drift?
So I started getting into oval track racing when I was 13. My parents were nice enough to help me get into my first race car. And I did that for 10 years. Kind of went up the ladder with the dream of being a NASCAR guy and all that. And at some point, the reality set in that I don't have enough zeros in the bank account, and neither my family, to kind of make that dream try and come to fruition. So pivoted one day and saw a LS S13 that a guy had started swapping, and kind of gave up on the project. And I bought it sight unseen out of Louisiana and had it shipped up here and sold all my oval track stuff. Just kind of got burnt out on the whole deal. It's a lot of young kids a lot of time that we started racing against, and the guys I was racing against stayed the same age, and I kept getting older. And I was looked around one day, I'm like, maybe I should try something different. So that's what I did. Sold that stuff off and bought a drift car and started doing grassroots events. And I'm a competitive guy. That's what the world I came from. So as soon as the time came where there were some local competitions, I'm like, well, heck, I'm doing okay at the just driving around stuff. Might as well try and enter competitions. And then it just snowballed from there. I can't kind of leave well enough alone. Just started grassroots competitions, and then got where I was doing pretty good and winning some of those, and did Nopi, and then did Streetwise with Pro-Am, and then I almost say happened into a Pro 2 license, because I've coming into our last round of Pro-Am, I was like 7th in points, and every one of the stars had to align for me to get a top 3 in points, and it did. I had kind of the perfect day up there, and got my Pro 2 license. I'm like, well, hell, we've come this far, might as well see what we got with the big boys, and did that for a couple of years and got my pro license. I'm like, well, once again, like Forrest Gump, we've come this far, might as well keep running.
Yeah.
And did that, and had some stumbling blocks along the way for sure, and a long time to develop a totally new car, untested chassis, and work through that. And now we finally got it pretty much where we want it.
Why? I mean, I think I have ideas, and we've kind of mentioned this before, but why the Cadillac? Why the ATS?
So especially when I built the car, but even now, when you look around on grid, you see a lot of S chassis, and you see a lot of, Z's and things like that. And I kind of got tired of just being another guy out there with an S chassis, because I had a S13 and then an S14. And there's a lot of them out there for good reason, because they're great drift cars. But I just really like the idea of doing something unique. I'm not the prototypical drift guy, as you can tell. You're not going to see many people that, look like me out at most drift events, and that's okay. I think it's great to have some different kind of folks and personalities and some diversity out there. But I'm an all-American kind of guy, and wanted to do something American, and I wanted to do something that hadn't been done before. And when you kind of put those two criteria in place, and then you've got to add to it, it needs to be rear-wheel drive, it needs to be able to have a fit of V8 under the hood, you kind of filter the selection down a little bit more. And I really like the idea of having manufacturers with that manufacturer's engine in it too. So having something that the LS works well with. And the Corvette had already been done. We looked at a Camaro, but those are a little bit bigger even than my car. Most people don't know that or think that, but it is. So that just kind of is a Cadillac. Took some measurements and looked at the suspension, and it all seemed would work pretty well for what we were doing. And 3 years later, it does now.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a learning curve that comes along. But I would say, and I don't know if you feel this way, because sometimes my opinion doesn't necessarily resonate with how people see their own experience. But I would say that last year was probably your best professional performing year. Would you agree?
It's not even close. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like last year was our coming out party for our whole program in general. I had made some steady incremental gains since coming into pro. I only ran 4 events my first year with S14, and then we ran all 8 the next year, but we broke a bunch, and then we ran all of them the next year and didn't break as much. And, we were feeling more competitive, but we didn't win any battles. So coming into 2020, we hadn't won a battle in top 32 yet. We had been knocked out oh for I don't know how many, a bunch. Um, so it definitely was discouraging at times.
But
and then we came into round one.
But you were only
Go ahead.
measuring on a scale of how much stuff you broke. So if you didn't break anything, I'd say you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we put ourselves behind the eight ball, right? And it's, we got to have extreme ownership of our part and all that. And, it's each team's responsibility to bring a capable car to the event that's going to be reliable. And, we failed to do that for a little while. Not to say that, it's not part of developing a new chassis and new engine package and all that, because it definitely is. And it took us a little while to figure out what that magic combination was. But once we figured it out, and I could actually get some time to practice and run with these guys who aren't having as many issues as we were at the time, who, by the way, are still the best guys in the world that do this. It's hard. The best drivers from all over God's creation come to FD to show that they're the best. So,
and you kind of spoke
hard.
about such a good example of no matter whether you're Pro-Am or you're kind of getting into drift, or if you've made the progression to Pro 2 / Pro Spec, or if you have made the jump to Pro 1, when you put a new platform together, it takes an incredible amount of seat time to really shake the car down. And that can last a long time. I mean, how much, even if you tried to throw everything you could at the car, until you really get it into every situation that, the car is going to be in, you don't start to find the weak links. And that's just the learning curve that everybody has to go through when they build a new car, let alone a platform that doesn't really have a ton of, I don't want to say aftermarket support, because, there are a lot of Cadillac
No, that's
tuning
pretty
people.
fair.
But like, I just mean, like, not in drifting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you may find the guy that's a really, HP tuners, a really domestic GM kind of shop. You may find that, and you might have somebody argue, no, we could do all this stuff to it. But when you start talking about drifting, you're talking about custom steering components and angle kits and things that you have to fabricate and then shake down.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge because we were developing all of that totally from scratch. There was no other platform at the time that had any sort of, down to the just adjustable arms in the rear. We had to make those. Nobody made anything for the car, much less, LS swap kits and, a quick change, rear subframe, or of course angle kits. Nobody have used this car to do any of that, so it was all from scratch. And we knew what we were biting off when we got into it, but maybe not quite to the degree that it ended up being. Everything. You can't get anything for this car, off the shelf, really. So it's we've had some really great partners that we've worked with, including you guys that have helped us, get the car to where it's at.
We're new to the party in comparison, but it has been a bunch of fun being on your program. What does it look like? You pick up this ATS, right? And you bring it home, and you have an idea. I'm sure you did some measurements before you decided to go this route, and you said, we'll be able to get the engine here and stuff. But then I'm sure you put up a mock-up motor, and the first thing after you rip the heart out of it that came with it, and you put it in, and then now you hit all the obstacles. Now you find everything that you have to do to try to shoehorn this thing in so everything fits. What were, like, the major obstacles?
So I bought the car out of Texas. I went on carpart.com and just because I could not find one of these things unless they was totally complete, and they were like the price of Corvettes. And it's like, well, I might as well buy a Corvette if I'm going to do this, because they did none of the ATSs. Right. No ATS ever came with a V8. A lot of people don't know that. It was only 4 cylinders or 6 cylinders. So I knew I wasn't going to use the engine platform at all. So I found one of these wrecks on carpart.com. I figured I would go on there and look for quarter panels, because I figure if someone had a quarter panel, more than likely they had the whole car. So I made a deal with this guy out in Texas. I bought the car for $2,000. It didn't have any interior, no engine, trans, diff, no front suspension. It had been wrecked in the left front and the right rear.
Perfect.
I'll take it.
Great. $2,000. I'll take it home. So I took it to my buddy first and got some of the body work fixed up on it. And then I took it up to John Maykrantz with Committed Service Brand up in Delaware, and he kind of helped me start sorting out some of the major issues, getting the motor and trans fit in there, rear mount radiator stuff, getting the quick change rear subframe all sorted out. And he was really good with all of that. And that all actually came together pretty easy and pretty quickly. For his skill set and what he had, I just didn't have time to put the car together for the most part myself. The cage is basic stuff. It's easy. That's, cage is a cage kind of thing. The angle kit was the hard part. We're on like our fourth version of that now. Between what we actually started out with was Odie's prototype knuckles for his Hyundai Genesis he ran back 5-6 years ago. So, because my car's front steer as opposed to like a 240 being rear steer.
Mm-hmm.
So we started out with those, made some changes because we played with scrub radius and whatnot a lot, and trying to get camber gain and caster and everything right. And then I've changed the lower control arm design. I think this is the third or fourth time I've kind of lost count now, trying to get its clearance right. And that has been the biggest obstacle for sure.
That's crazy.
But you think about it, like, it's more of a luxury car. So, like, why would they have, a lot of room in the wheel wells and things of that nature? Like, it's not designed really to.
And there's not
obviously.
a lot.
Yeah, it's not really like a car that's been designed to do any sort of these things. So naturally, you'd have all these headaches, I feel like.
Yeah,
the Camaro on the same platform has like 3 inches more room in the front wheel wells than my car does. Found out that later.
Hello, there we go.
What?
We're back now. I can hear myself.
Can you hear us, Taylor? He can, but now we can't hear him.
Son of a bitch.
There's a reason that we're wheel people and not media people.
Bear with us here.
It's got to be check the Zoom. Oh, there you go. Now we should be here.
You hear me now?
Yeah, now we got you.
All right.
Anyhow, so let's take that as a jumping off point, and let's talk about something that I think, and I'm saying this from a fan spectator point of view of you. Now, I'm always going to be tainted when it comes to our drivers, usually because 95% of the time I end up really liking the drivers that we have on our roster, and it becomes enjoyable to work with them and get to know them. There's been a few that I won't mention that I don't know that we were in the right space, but Taylor's definitely one of those guys. And we've known each other, and we've been talking about working together for a number of years. And then for whatever reasons, they just not everything lined up. And then a couple years ago, we kind of said, "Hey, look, let's give it a shot." The one thing that I've seen, and again, I'm biased, is that Taylor seems to have got a lot of shit talking about him.
Oh boy.
That's fair.
So
as someone who's only recently came to Konig, I can confirm that.
So I struggle with it. I guess you can say that the internet and people on the internet will always want to find something. And everybody's always got this extra opinion. But I could think of 3 specific examples where I feel like you got handed an unfair amount of shit. Let's see. One was it Irwindale FD?
This past year, yep.
Right.
With me and Dylan, yep.
Yeah, there was that one. Then I think basically 2 clutch kicker events, if I'm if I'm correct, right?
Yep.
Now, I will say that the last one, and how are you faring out after that? Because I guess whenever you know what? I think it's interesting because so many people jump. This is, for people that don't know, Taylor in the last clutch kicker event had around quarterfinals. Is that right?
You talking about against Adam?
Yeah.
The battle for third.
Okay. So right in that, area, they're battling for third, and in the tandem, there's a spot where there's a collision, and I will say,
Well,
unbiased.
but wait. It's supposed to be. What is it normally supposed to be? Right? Is it supposed to be a brake zone? Is it supposed just to give some context?
But before you even get there, Taylor definitely has the collision with Adam. Let's say it like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think, when that happened, I was like, oh crap, I really wanted to see what was going to happen when Adam's video came out, because Adam is not a dance it around it kind of guy. He'll call people out. And I will say that I was under the same opinion that Adam had when he stated what he thought happened from his perspective. He kind of just said, everybody's out here trying to win. You're pushing real hard, and maybe it just, it didn't exactly set in. So much of drifting, and I was saying this to these guys, is anticipation. You can't wait until something happens to react. In a lot of situations as a driver, you have to predict what's going to happen in front of you.
Yeah, 100%. In that specific instance, from my perspective, I was real close on him coming through the second outer zone. And when we transitioned, I came in maybe a touch further inside than I wanted to, but I came in hard on him and surged and was trying to anticipate, as you were talking about. I anticipated him being on throttle and faster through that section than he was. And I got back on throttle, anticipating that to be the case. I saw that he locked up the right front brake going through that section. And I tried to get down on my left foot brake, but by that time it was too late and contact already happened. Everything happened so fast in that situation. And, we touched front tire to front tire. And when that happens, even though people don't believe that from when it happened to me at Irwindale, I understand that when you touch front tire to front tire, kind of all bets are off, and whatever happens, it kind of rips the wheel out of your hand, and you're just playing catch up at that point. And he spun out, and, I don't put any blame on him. It's just, it's just motorsports. It's just competition in tight quarters, tandem. Sometimes you're going to hit, and especially at a flat, slow track like that where you can push really hard, and it's so tight, it's really hard to get any sort of separation down there. It makes for drama, I'll say that.
And going back to that anticipation, what people have to understand is that Adam's not. You weren't going up against some of the other Pro-Am cars that were out there. Adam's got a very competent, very fast, very well built. I don't know. I didn't mean bit. Very well built.
We can edit that out.
Vehicle, and his potential to pull away on you if you're sleeping on it is certainly there.
Yeah, it's just like mine.
Yeah.
I mean, we came with two very comparable cars. And I said, right after the event, I told him, if you're not pushing and you're not giving it 100% and pushing as hard as you can, you're going to lose. I mean, it's going to happen, because if you give them that little bit and back down and not, take a risk, they will, and they'll beat you. I mean, you just got to put it all on the line, and sometimes it's going to work out and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Did you speak to Adam directly after that battle?
Oh yeah. Well, not in between our two battles, but as soon as it was over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so was he fairly understanding of like, hey, it happens kind of thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And why wouldn't he be? He just won $3,500 and I lost. So I mean, I'd be pretty understanding too.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he was very gracious. I mean, like I've said a lot of times, and people probably give me even more shit for this, and that's fine too. But you should never take a car on a racetrack you're not prepared to lose.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Not that any of us are trying to do that. I had somebody message me or comment on one of my things like, are you going to be happy when you kill somebody? Like, nobody's trying to do that. No, nobody's trying to kill anybody. Nobody's trying to hurt anybody. I mean, especially at clutch kickers, we're going like 25 miles an hour when that contact happens right there. So I don't think anybody's life was in immediate danger there. But, at the same time, you take a car out to Irwindale and it's not like that. You're running, 90 miles an hour when you enter into the big bank, and there's a real possibility that, something breaks, somebody hits you, you tap the wall. And I mean, you better be ready to lose that car, because if you don't drive it like you're prepared to lose it, you're also going to lose.
Yeah. Those high banks are always, to me, some of the scariest courses for drifting. And it's because if you're really up on the wall, if you're really riding it out, it doesn't take much effort when the car makes even a little bit of contact for the wall for you to immediately about face and get sucked up into the wall. You know what I mean? And then you spin that car. I mean, you've seen them. You could spin the car around and basically tank every corner of the car right on the bat.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. You're right. I mean, when you're pushing as hard as you are and going as fast as you are at those big tracks, especially like Irwindale and Seattle, where you're 80 plus in drift up against the wall, and you have just a little bit of a tap, just a little wrong angle or a little bit too hard, and it'll suck the right front or the left front respectively around, and you might be building a new car.
Yeah, it's hard. I read so much of these comments, and for people that make these comments, listen, I can understand, right? Like, we've all had the sports that we talk about. We all have the sports that we watch from home on the couch. We yell at the TV. We write things like, this team sucks and they don't deserve to play, and this guy cheated or he did. Right. But I think once you really know people on a personal level, you really come into a really good understanding what their motivations are, what they find to be acceptable and not. And, you're just not the guy that has that. Like, you go out trying to win. That's it. And you make judgment calls. You are aggressive. And sometimes those things display in a way that makes people think that you have this ulterior agenda. But, like, people don't go out set to make people wreck, because most of the time when you in drifting try to make somebody wreck, you get wrecked upon. Like,
also you lose.
Yeah.
Usually when,
right.
as evident as, when I hit Adam, if two cars make contact and you're deemed at fault, you lose. So there's no incentive to have that happen. I don't go there to lose. I go there to win. So that's very counterproductive to what I'm trying to accomplish. I don't want to cost myself more money down there. I want to win money. So,
right.
That's not what we're about. It just, again, it's tight quarters action, and you have to make the best estimates of what you think somebody's going to do and put your car in the position to try and put on an awesome run. And sometimes it's going to work out and sometimes it's not. But yeah, I mean, I think, everybody's going to draw their own conclusions from, the events we've had and the battles we've lost and won, and that's fine. Not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. And I'm not going to like everybody, and that's okay too. We're kind of moving on from caring too much about, those people and what they think. We're going to go out and give it the best shot that we've got and do it the right way, in our opinion. And I don't lose any sleep at night over how any of these events have turned out or how I've driven or think I've done anything dirty or cheating or anything like that. And I'll continue to not do that, but I'm also going to continue to be aggressive and put it all on the line and try and win these events. I don't come there for second or third or any sort of consolation participation trophy. We go there to win, and that's what we're trying to do. And if that's us living in an outlaw state of mind, so to speak, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's been said plenty of times, especially in sports. If you don't come to absolutely win, then you shouldn't come at all because the mindset isn't there. If you set your mindset to, I just kind of want to place mid-pack, well, then you're not even going to place mid-pack.
Well, I just think of Talladega Nights.
What's that?
I just think of Talladega Nights, where if you're not first, you're last.
Well,
I thought you were thinking about just a big American Harry winning machine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what we were thinking. That should be like a good poster we should release, right?
Right.
So
just don't use my back hair.
That's exactly what we were hoping for.
Oh, yeah.
This is
My
going
wife will kill me
downhill
for that
really
one.
fast. Yeah.
Cool.
But I will say, it's great that you're able to take the criticism and kind of use a grain of salt on it because it is a tough thing to do. I mean, guys like, the Adam LZs of the world and different people that have had, an enormous amount of exposure to people coming at them is one thing. But like, I know even for us here, whenever you take something really personal, right? Like for us, we genuinely try to put out positive vibes. We try not to work with anybody that has negativeness, like too much negative energy. We try to work with other car people. We are car people. We like making cool car parts. We try to put out content that's informative. We don't hit people with the sell right hook too much. We're just trying to be car people and enjoy what we do. And sometimes people without any good understanding of how things work, without any good point of view,
or any instigation.
Well, yeah, and without any really good, they just seem to have a lot of time on their hands, and they make these things and these comments. While you say to yourself, "Oh, I don't know them; it doesn't matter." Like personally, sometimes they do feel like it's easy to get to you.
Yeah. For a little while, I guess, maybe during the first one, I don't even remember what the first one was now, maybe one of the clutch kickers things. Maybe it bothers my wife more than it bothers me. I'll say that. But, you read some of that stuff at first and you like try and defend it to some degree. And then at some point along the way, it's like, there's no defending it because they're going to feel the way they're going to feel. Sometimes when we've had, I'll use clutch kickers for an example. So the first, controversy we had down there was somebody hitting me and I spun out, and then said that I flopped. And then now this round I hit somebody and they spin out and it's still my fault and I'm still the devil. So, it's not what happens on track. It's just us and our team. And, for whatever reason, there's a group of people that, aren't about what we're about. And again, that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And I encourage them to get out there and build a car and give me their best shot, and we'll go put them on the trailer too.
Yeah, that's I like
there
that.
You go.
So the ATS, we finally just got this thing locked in. What year is the car?
The 2016.
Have you already given thoughts to the what's next?
A little bit. So you'll start seeing some videos come out on my YouTube. We're starting to put another car together for like 4 clutch kickers. It's not going to be my next FD car, and it's probably it's very counterintuitive to what I'm going to say next. But in general, the thing that helped us have success with the Cadillac, and part of the driving motivation for building it, was a lot of these Fortune 500 companies and, just companies in general that we want to work with and want to build partnerships with aren't as interested in working with a car that's 25 years old. They want something newer and relevant, that they can, well-known brands are okay associating their brand with, that you see out on the road still and that's still getting manufactured. So that was another reason why we went to build the Cadillac. As far as what's next, I'm very confident, at some point we'll move on from that car, whether it's, I just wear it out or, want to build something new and exciting, or, you know, maybe I'm that guy that stuffs it firewall deep in the wall at the Inner Bank at Irwindale at some point in the not too distant future. I hope not, but it's all, again, the harsh reality of what we do. It could definitely happen.
Well, whatever the
but it would
outcome
definitely-
is, there's going to be a meme about it. So let's just put it there.
And
I'm
it's gonna be
certain
your
that's true.
fault.
It most certainly will be. But whatever it is, it'll be American, and it'll be at least a V8. So
Yeah.
that's the best I can kind of put forward. I really love being the unique guy. It probably won't. I'll do my best for it to not be something that anybody else is doing, because I'm a glutton for punishment and want to build my own parts and go through that again, apparently. So that's what we'll do.
What are you looking forward to this season? Do you feel this has been? I've heard rumors that there's going to be spectators. I've heard rumors that there's not going to be spectators.
Spectators depending on the venue.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios in this situation. I've heard rumors: open pits, closed pits. This has been an interesting year, the past year that we went through, because FD, and I think credit, it should be given where credit's due. I think that Formula Drift, in the beginning, I don't know, I was like, what are they trying to do? Like, what's the point? You know what I mean? They're trying to get, but, you know, I mean, when you look at it from a standpoint of a lot of these drivers had contractual obligations to be and have a season. Formula Drift, almost out of thin air with, I don't know how many, you know, different revisions, they put out a full schedule and they got you guys to run. Maybe not ideal, maybe not what anybody wanted, but they stepped up to the plate. I will give them that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge undertaking, I'm sure, for Jim and Ryan and everybody with FD to put that schedule together last year. I can't imagine the headaches that they went through trying to deal with the tracks and, you know, canceled and rescheduled, and, you know, just a huge variation in what everybody thought it was going to be. And, you know, to be fair, I'm sure it's not exactly what they wanted it to be either. But overall, I think absolutely, you know, we got to give credit where credit's due, and that was that they put a series out there for all of us to go and compete in and showcase. And, you know, I wouldn't be, you know, having the success that I had last year if there was no season to have that success in. So I'm super glad that that got to happen. What I'm looking most forward to is just simply going to all the rounds and experiencing the fans again. And I do think that we will probably have fans at more events than we won't. You know, I think the West Coast is still a question mark to some degree. You know, with California and Seattle, maybe even the Northeast stuff that may be a little bit slower to open up than we are in the Southeast. But at least we start down here and work our way to those places. And hopefully everything goes well and we'll have positive results and everybody else can see that we're going to be okay. And we can all be, you know, even if it's 6 feet apart, we can say hi to each other and still exist in the same space and not die.
Yeah. It's funny though, because when you say that, all I keep thinking about is like up here, you know, we're in New York and, you know, our other locations in California. So we certainly understand how these states, you know, obviously pretty hard hit, but, you know, obviously also definitely some rules. I mean, down south, I mean, forget about,
it's a Wild West out here, man.
I'm not taking a side. I'm just saying down there, they grabbed a Coke and a smile and they said, let's open up the doors.
Yeah, for sure. I know it doesn't need to be a political conversation at all, and none of us want that. Right. But, you know, but the fact remains, I think that we'll be able to have fans down here and we'll be able to see what that's like at Road Atlanta. And I'm sure in Florida, because Florida people are wild. And, you know, it should be fun. I anticipate that things will go well, and I really hope that they allow fans at all the events, because that's what makes the event so electrifying and everything. I will say, is as much fun as I had at Irwindale and as cool as it was and the experience was awesome, it would have been so much better with fans, even if they were booing me.
Yeah. Well, No, yeah, it's true. I think I've only been to Irwindale once, but I will say that there are some tracks and some venues on the FD schedule that have a feeling, this kind of energy that's at an event that makes the event that much better. I think Road Atlanta is one of them. I think that Irwindale certainly one of them.
Yeah.
Long Beach, but that's a different animal altogether, right? Like that's.
I think those are the two really that are like that. I mean, all of them are good, but as far as an atmosphere, those are the two that really set the bar.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Do you feel pretty good about this season? You think this season is going to be a positive experience for drivers and fans?
Yeah, I really do. I think it's maybe even to some degree, starts the healing process of, getting through what we went through all of 2020 and maybe get back to some sense of normalcy with the series and the country. I hope. I'm ready. We're excited to see everybody come out and, hopefully we get to have them in the pits and, interact with everybody and get to say hi. And, it's a really cool thing, but yeah, I think it's going to be great for the series, for the drivers, for the fans, being able to have 8 rounds and get out there and show what we got and hopefully bring some new fans in the sports. We'll, I'm sure, have some new drivers come up from Pro 2, Pro Spec. And I already know a few that are coming, some of my friends. So it should be a lot of fun. I was worried that we might not have the car count that we needed for a little while, but it looks like all signs are pointing to a top 32 and at least close to that number. So I think we're, all the stars are lining up to have a really good year.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I think I'm pumped just because I want to watch some FD as it was intended. You know what I mean? Like, I like the fact that I got to watch live stream last year, but it is hard to consume all parts of an event when you have so much going on in one weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is going to be just a breath of fresh air to kind of have it at a normal pace.
Yeah, 100% it will. I mean, it's a big ask of any fan to be able to take in all the content that FD puts out in a weekend. I know we didn't have qualifying, but this year we'll have qualifying and Pro Spec and Pro. It's a lot to watch, so it's a lot cooler to just be there in person and take it in that way while you have a couple beers with your friends.
Real quick, because you mentioned it, did you like not having qualifying? I've spoken to drivers that are on both sides of the spectrum.
I was okay with it. If I had it one way or the other, as long as, we're guaranteed to get into top 32, I like it. And the main reason why is because as soon as we offload in practice, the first lap out, we're practicing for battles. I'm not trying to hone in a perfect line to take me from a 94 to a 98 because while it matters in tandem, it doesn't matter nearly as much as the overall experience does because, the lead obviously is important. You have to have a good lead to have a good chase. We've all heard it 1,000 times, but it sucks to have your whole first practice basically devoted to dialing in that perfect qualifying line. Whereas this year in practice, we were able to do 2 or 3 leads and then just immediately go to chase practice. And I've never experienced that. So it's just a total different mindset for me and our team of I'm going to battle practice. And I think it showed, over the course of the year and what we were able to accomplish from doing that. So maybe we don't change our mindset too much. It may not bode as well for us in qualifying, but I think come battle time, it's good for us. And I think the competition experience we're getting down at Clutch Kickers is extremely valuable, especially being in the Cadillac too. There's no replacement for real live bullets, so to speak. With actual competition, you don't get the jitters when you go practice. You don't have that that feeling when you're on the start line, lined up next to somebody that you got to go beat. And when you've got, 3 or 4 rounds of that against a bunch of guys that haven't, been in that live action up until that point, I think it's an advantage for us.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. You mentioned your YouTube channel. So before we get out of here, you want to plug all your stuff. There's 122 people roughly that are really interested in what we're doing here and probably have gotten to this point. And if they do, I want them to know all about you.
Well, at least 12 of those will like me. So obviously, big supporter of Konig and what you guys have done for us. The wheels not only look great on the car, they function great. They've taken some hits. They've taken some hits for the car at times, as you know, as I've sent you some pictures of my sad wheels sometimes. You guys have been great to us when people have taken it upon themselves to steal things out of the back of our car.
It happens.
And it does, unfortunately. But so thank you for that. Of course, we've got Comp Cams and Edelbrock back on. They've merged together as a company. Not quite ready to announce the tire deal yet because we got to get some contracts signed.
That's fair.
Yeah, so we want to get all that inked and everything before we make any announcements.
But you're going to have tires on our wheels.
Yes, we will have tires on the wheels. We won't be drifting with just the wheels. Hey, crazier things have happened, right? Ask Jeff Jones.
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, Liquid Moly and Yellow Speed. That's our oil and our coilover companies. Without all of those guys, things would not be. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't have made it to the events last year. I wouldn't be going to the events this year. It's a big deal and having a lot of fun. So I do want to shout out one of our sponsors that probably unfortunately won't be back with us this year, but it's going through a really hard time right now, which is Thunderbolt Racing Fuel. They provided the ethanol for us, and their factory burned down a few weeks ago up in the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, we're thinking and praying for them. Relationship goes far beyond just providing fuel for us, just like it does with more than just wheels here. And we really wish the best for those guys. It's a really tough time. So hopefully they'll come out the other side of it stronger than what they were.
Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, we can all make jokes and we talk about different things like that. But when you start talking about people's livelihoods and the families that are connected to it, and that's really where it starts to hit home.
Yeah.
YouTube, social media, lay it out there.
Yep. So Instagram, we're at Taylor Hull 82. Facebook and YouTube is just Taylor Hull Racing, or just you can search Taylor Hull or Taylor Hull Sucks. Everything will come up, I'm sure. We're having a lot of fun with it at this point, right? Like clearly, all you can do is laugh, and it's going to be a good year, guys. Like I think we have what it takes to expand upon how we did last year. I've said it before. We're not going to the track just for the experience or the practice anymore. We're going to win, and that's our goal. We want podium finishes, and we're running against the best guys in the world. But I think we can bring what it takes to the table to be competitive with them.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Exactly.
Listen, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us, especially after hours here. And I don't know, man. I'm pumped to see how you guys throw it out there this year, because I think that from what I saw last year, when the season ended, I was ready to see more, Yeah,
we were ready to do more. I mean, I know it was 8 rounds, but it was only 4 weekends. Right, and it kind of felt like mid-season stride that we were just hitting, and we were on an upward trajectory, and we just want to keep that momentum rolling, and I think we will. It's going to be aggressive, and it's going to be fun, and I can't wait.
Well, to quickly bounce off your comment, what I'll say in regard to that is, you talked a lot about how you feel like the car is dialed in. So I feel like inherently you are going to do better because like there's more room in there to just focus on driving and not worrying about tweaking the car, dialing in things. I mean, obviously you're going to have to do a little bit of that, but it sounds like you guys have it pretty sorted for battle.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good book of adjustments and everything that we've built over the last few years. It will be a little bit different with a new tire. Obviously, with Achilles going out of the sport, we have to be on a new tire. So I'm excited about that partnership, but it will certainly be a little bit of a learning curve for me. But I'm certain that we'll be able to adapt well and quickly and, hopefully not miss a beat.
That's awesome. And we're going to look forward to watching you do it. So with that, we'll let you go. Give the best to the family for us. And I don't know, make sure you check out Taylor Hall. He's coming to a city remotely near you.
Thank you guys very much for having me on. Really appreciate it. Love you guys. Love the product. And we will see you throughout 2020. Or 2021. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't put us back there. We just got out of there.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I can't escape. Apparently.
It's awful. Anyhow, thanks. We'll catch you later.
All right.
So that's it. I will say, I think that if you're not super up to date on Taylor, if you haven't followed some of the things, or if you happen to be watching this and you may have been on the other side of positive criticism toward him, I personally, can vouch for his person and believe that, Taylor is a really respectable guy that just has a deep desire to do well, win, compete. And I think that that's what should be the definition of a competitor when you come down to motorsports. Now,
I was going to say that I also think that people forget that it's definitely one of the more aggressive motorsports in general. I feel like there's so much more of a likelihood to have a collision,
Well, I mean, your whole nature is trying to get close proximity to somebody while moving in different directions.
But I think people forget that, and they just think that inherently, because there was a collision, it was intentional.
Maybe. I mean, unless I guess it's clearly like you can see the whole thing just unravel, and you're like, oh, that was wild, Yeah. But yeah, I think that the nature of drifting is that you're supposed to have that unanticipated things happen, right? Like, and that's part of a good show. It's also part of being with drivers that are willing to put it all out there. You wouldn't want it if everybody got out there and played it safe, because it would be a really boring event to watch.
Well, but I also like, in conjunction with that, I also like what Taylor was saying about this whole idea of like, there's no benefit ultimately to me hitting somebody.
Sure.
I think people forget that also. It's like, where's the advantage ultimately to purposely hitting somebody?
Yeah. I mean, I think most of us understand that. But I don't know. It was cool to have Taylor on and kind of hear some opinions. And if you were on the other side, or if you have some thoughts, throw it down below. We like comments, we like likes, and in addition to that, if you want to subscribe, this is really a great time. And, we'll make sure that our friend over here puts a little animation on the bottom right when we start the podcast, because we didn't say anything about subscribing there. And we like subscriptions, so, do that.
Like them, need them, all that stuff. Turn those notifications
on.
I'm losing my words.
Anyhow, before something detrimental happens, thanks for watching. I just broke the armchair. Thanks for watching. It's been cool. We will see you next Wednesday. Don't forget that we go live on Instagram and Facebook at 2 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. We usually go live at 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, and we record the podcast. This one was a little bit different in the sense that to make it come to life, we had to work around Taylor's work schedule, and we appreciate him, hanging out work and doing it right after work so that we could bring this for you. So that's it. make sure you're checking us out on the podcast stuff. You know, Stitcher and where else were we? Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. We're fun to listen to in your ride home. Probably more fun than looking at us right now. Anyhow, that's it. Thanks for coming by. We'll see you next week. Take care. Peace out.